It's like a renaissance that we've been looking forward to for a while, and it's actually happening now. Just spin up your own shop and start selling whatever you want to sell, or offering services, and just having it a super frictionless way to start receiving payments where the user experience is really good. The bigger you can get your community and get more of like become an economic force that is actually out there spending money and supporting local merchants and getting Bitcoin into the hands of these people that wouldn't probably invest in it otherwise. Then they get orange pilled over time because they get some Bitcoin, they see it's pretty easy to use, it's free for them to move it around, to transfer it to other people, and it grows in value over time, which is a big kind of selling point. Going out and spending it is going to help with that. Like, that's going to create new Bitcoiners, which is eventually going to drive the price of Bitcoin up. So it's not even an altruistic thing that you're doing by spending your Bitcoin. You're probably going to be buying coffees and food with some money, right? Like, even if you've invested in Bitcoin, you're going to be spending fiat. So why not just take a little bit extra of the fiat you have and buy more Bitcoin so that you can then go and spend it? I don't see it as a bad thing that they're adopting it. I still think that in the long term, Bitcoin is going to dissolve the state, and by them adopting it and driving the price of it up and driving adoption and legitimizing it, they're just kind of putting the nails in their own coffin and accelerating that process. Yeah, digging their own grave.
Thanks for tuning in. If you're enjoying the show, I would really appreciate it if you could hit the subscribe button, which is the easiest way you could show your support for the show and help it grow, as well as making sure you don't miss out any of the future episodes. And also, I'm proud to announce that my newly launched Become Unruggable Bitcoin Self-Custody Mentorship Program is now live. So if you've been looking for a Bitcoin mentor to help you get your Bitcoin into self-custody, I'm now available to work with you one-on-one. Check out the show notes down below for all the different contact details, email, X, Nostr, whatever you prefer. And also a big shout out to StampSeed for sponsoring the show. Check out StampSeed.com for more information. And now let's get the episode underway. Enjoy. Welcome to Your Bitcoin Story podcast. I'm your host, Gigi, and in today's episode, we have the pleasure of being joined by Adam Soltis, the founder and CTO of CoinOS, a free web wallet and payment page designed for everyone. Adam is a passionate software engineer who firmly believes that the adoption of sound money will be the driving force behind the global prosperity. Based out of northern Vancouver, Adam is on a mission to make Bitcoin accessible and user-friendly for all. We'll dive deep into his Bitcoin journey and the story behind CoinOS and his vision for the future of sound money. Adam, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Gigi.
It's, as I said, it's an absolute pleasure having you on. Thanks for taking the time. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation. But before we dive deeper into CoinOS and everything that's revolving on that sphere, maybe we can start it off by you sharing essentially how you first discovered Bitcoin and what was the initial thing that drew you to it?
Yeah, I think I discovered it through a blog post by a guy named Dan Kaminsky. He's like a security researcher. He passed away a couple of years ago, but he was writing an article because he'd gone and looked at Bitcoin and he was trying to break it because that's what he does. He finds exploits and things, or that's what he did, I should say. And he couldn't find anything obvious with Bitcoin. So he wrote an article saying, hey, this thing is really intriguing. It's really well designed. He was really skeptical about it at first, and then I found that it's actually legit. So that piqued my interest. I went and looked at it and got into the Bitcoin wiki back in the day and the Bitcoin talk forums, the IRC channels, and just saw there's a lot of really smart people working on it. Yeah, I was skeptical too at first, but the more I read about it and learned about it, the more interesting it became, and to the point of becoming totally obsessed with it and then wanting to go and spread it to everyone else and tell them, hey, you should go check this out. So yeah, that's kind of how I got into it.
Amazing. And I guess that was pre-2015. So as you said, 2011 was when you initially started. The scene was very different than it is today. It was much more cypherpunky and very kind of science techy than what it is today. How has kind of your experience changed over the last decade with regards to Bitcoin and the deeper you went in the journey?
Yeah, it was people on IRC, kind of more libertarian cypherpunks, which I still associate with and are identify with. Yeah. So I like that ethos, and I'm glad to see some of them are still around, and there still is a lot of that sort of spirit in Bitcoin that we're going to take down the state and fix the money, fix the world, and do it whether they want us to or not. It is like a punk attitude. There is more mainstream adoption that's happened in the last few years, and I think that's a good thing, right? It's bringing more capital into the space, more mind share, which attracts developers who may have written it off ideologically. Now that it's becoming just more accepted, and you hear about it on the news, and it's not so negative anymore. I hope that's going to attract more talented people to come and work on it and build better services for it and just keep it growing. So I think it's a positive thing to get it out there.
But at the same time, as you mentioned, kind of Bitcoin was, the initial idea was all about separating the money from the state. And now we see the state endorsing it and potentially talking about building strategic reserves and whatnot, but essentially putting Bitcoin into treasuries, which kind of goes against the ethos of Bitcoin, which is everybody's money that, you can use, control, and exchange with. But now we're seeing more and more larger companies, the MicroStrategies of the world, just buying hordes of Bitcoin and just storing it away in their treasury, which kind of goes against what this technology is out there for. So what's your personal take on that, Adam?
Yeah, I've had some discussions about this. I don't see it as a bad thing that they're adopting it. I still think that in the long term, Bitcoin is going to dissolve the state. And by them adopting it and driving the price of it up and driving adoption and legitimizing it, they're just kind of putting the nails in their own coffin.
They're digging their own grave.
Process. Yeah, digging their own grave. Yeah. So I'm all for it. I think, the bigger the market cap grows and the more investment we get into it, it's just going to strengthen it. And those properties remain, that it's decentralized, it can't be censored, it can't be controlled, and it's going to make it harder and harder to enforce taxation and seizure. So it's going to fulfill its manifest destiny. It's just a matter of time. Governments and big corporations investing in it is just going to speed that process up, I think.
That's true. But on the topic of censoring it and controlling it, unless you're holding your keys in self-custody, if you're on the bandwagon of ETFs, then essentially you don't have that full control. You essentially, in my eyes, you have an IOU paper Bitcoin stating that you have some Bitcoin, but essentially it's just a contract, but no real value in it. And ETFs have been kind of the big trend of last year. Now at the moment, as the time of this recording, we're seeing some outflows finally. But kind of ETFs were this main thing. And it's crazy to me, people think, by holding an ETF that they're holding Bitcoin, but they're just speculating on price. What's your take on that, Adam?
Yeah, I think it's ideal to hold your own keys and keep your Bitcoin in cold storage. And it's possible people could get burned by that in the future if the ETFs, end up losing their coins or getting hacked somehow, or just refusing to honor their obligations, or something happens where there's a fork and then they only honor the KYC fork or something like that. People are worried about that they're going to, trying to change Bitcoin and have that economic power to decide which fork of Bitcoin is the real Bitcoin. But that's just going to hurt the people that don't have their own keys. Hopefully that doesn't happen. But if it does, then it's too bad for them. They should have learned how to hold their own keys.
That's a nice way of putting it. But if there's anything we've learned from the block size wars, is that the node runners have the final say, even if no matter how big the company is, how big the group is, as we saw a decade ago when the biggest mining companies and the biggest companies in the space all wanted to do their own separate Bitcoin with larger blocks. In the end, they lost out. So I don't know if the BlackRocks of the world have studied that part of history. Maybe they just think, we will just, do our own hard fork and, the rules will be in our favor, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, that's all we can do. Wait and see.
Perfect, Adam. So I guess since your journey started a long time ago, what was your kind of participation in the Bitcoin space until launching CoinOS? Did you work on any other projects or were you part of any other, so to say, developments in the space?
Yeah, I guess early on I started as a local trader. So I got on local Bitcoins and I started meeting people in coffee shops and restaurants and selling them Bitcoin mostly. I would also buy Bitcoin from some people, but I met a lot of people that way. And I started participating in a meetup group in Vancouver. It was just me and one other guy at the first meetup, and then it started to grow and grow. So I've been pretty active as like a local meetup organizer. And part of that is going to merchant venues, like taking people to restaurants and cafes and hosting events there. And it was natural when we were hosting our Bitcoin meetups to ask the merchants if we could pay with Bitcoin. So that kind of got me into getting into like pushing for merchant adoption. And I started going around and just asking new business owners, hey, would you take Bitcoin if we started hosting events here, or even if we didn't host events, would you take Bitcoin if we started shopping here more? And we got a few restaurants and things to agree to that. And that's where CoinOS kind of came from, is I built it as a tool for these business owners to use just to track their incoming payments, fiat value that they were getting when we'd pay in Bitcoin, and it just developed from there. I did contract for Blockstream for a bit a couple of years ago, and I built raretoshi.com, which is a liquid NFT marketplace. So that's kind of my one other project that I've done. I also worked for a company in the States on some meshnet stuff. They didn't really adopt Bitcoin. I was trying to get them onto Bitcoin, but they were using Ethereum. And now they've launched their own token or something on Cosmos. But it's a cool project, althea.org. The idea of incentivizing people to share their home internet connections by like letting your neighbor piggyback off your Wi-Fi and then pay you by the gigabyte sort of thing.
Oh, wow.
It's a pretty interesting model to decentralize the internet and not have everyone going through these central ISPs. But yeah, I worked on that for a few years, but they went closed source and kind of ran out of their startup funding. So I moved on from that. And now I'm focused on CoinOS full time, pretty much.
Amazing. And when did you initially launch kind of the first demo of CoinOS, when, as you said, for merchant tracking of payments?
Well, it started 2012, 2013 as like a single page kind of widget just for doing the price conversion to Bitcoin and then monitoring a external address. Like you put in your on-chain Bitcoin address from whatever wallet you're using, and it was just like a watch only kind of a thing. And then, yeah, it sort of changed over the years to having more features. And then I set it aside for a few years and went and worked on other things and went traveling, and then picked it up again when the Lightning Network started coming around, 2019, 2020. And then just in the last 2 years or so, I've really been trying to push it out there and get a lot more merchant adoption. And I teamed up with Cole. He's another guy from Vancouver area here. So the two of us have been really going hard on trying to push for merchant adoption.
Yeah, no, I think, there's quite a bit of Bitcoin wallets nowadays out there, but they're kind of all focused on kind of people using it to hold their coins and transact. And you kind of, from my understanding, you have a different approach where your kind of main focus is merchants and accepting it as payment, which, to be honest, I don't know too many other wallet providers that are specifically focused on merchants. It's generally just a Bitcoin wallet. But apart from that, kind of what is like the core like kind of how do you stand out compared to other Bitcoin wallets that are out there, just in a few ways?
Yeah, I guess, well, the main thing is CoinOS is a custodial wallet. It's like the other main custodial wallet that people would use for Lightning payments is probably Wallet of Satoshi.
Wallet Satoshi.
And we're very similar to them, but a few differences are we're web-based, so we don't have native mobile apps, which is good and bad because a lot of people, when we say, hey, go install CoinOS or go try CoinOS, they instinctively go into their app store or the Play Store and they can't find us there, to explain, no, just go to our website. But yeah, it is a progressive web app, a PWA, so you can add it to your home screen and get the icon and stuff to launch it. Aside from that, yeah, we have a little more merchant features, so the ability to add tips to your invoices and then do sort of like the reporting that merchants need to kind of track for their accounting and bookkeeping. It's important for them to really know the price that Bitcoin was at the time of sale. So we put that front and center. And yeah, just...
And fees as well, I believe, from doing my research, kind of, you have, if not the lowest fees, right? And out of compared to other wallets, especially Wallet to Satoshi, which you mentioned, they have pretty high fees when you're paying and converting.
If you're converting, from like Lightning to on-chain Bitcoin, I think they charge 1.5%, and we're 0.1%.
Oh, wow.
And then other services that people would use to do that kind of conversion, like Bolts, I think the average there is like 0.4 or 0.5%. So we are one of the cheaper options for people to convert between different layers of Bitcoin, like Lightning. We also have liquid support and eCash. So if you want to deposit on Lightning and then withdraw on-chain Bitcoin, it's pretty seamless. You don't have to do any kind of swap or anything. It'll just work. Like when you put in an on-chain address to send out to, if you deposited with Lightning, you'll be able to pay to an on-chain address, and it'll just work, and 0.1% fee will get charged. So it kind of makes it easy for people because they can receive over any method and send out over any method, and you don't have to like do anything to go between them. It's just like a unified balance in sats that just works on any layer. Yeah, we do get a lot of people using us to rebalance their own Lightning nodes or just to move money from one layer to another layer. We also added peer swap capability to our Lightning node. So that's a tool that Lightning peers can use if you have a channel with us and you want to rebalance the channel to get on-chain funds or liquid on-chain funds in exchange for Lightning. It's a way that peers can make those swaps trustlessly or atomically, so that neither one of you has to like send first and then the other one sends back. It does submarine swap. So that's a way that other Lightning node operators can use our service to manage their liquidity or rebalance their liquidity with us. And then another big use case besides the merchants for CoinOS is becoming Nostr. So a lot of people are using us to receive zaps or to send zaps on Nostr, because we've integrated Nostr Wallet Connect, which was developed by Albi. And it's a really easy way for people to kind of use their CoinOS wallet or link their CoinOS wallet to their Nostr account in whatever Nostr app they're using, so they can make payments, out of their CoinOS account. And Stacker News is another one that's people are using CoinOS there a lot ever since Wallet of Satoshi left the United States and Albi shut down their custodial offering. We're like the last one standing for some people in the States now.
The last man on the hill.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I love the fact that within one wallet you have so much freedom to seamlessly, without even having to convert anything, you can just get on-chain and send out, may that be Lightning, may that be liquid payment, may that be eCash tokens, without the user actually having to swap out and do all that friction. To my knowledge, I don't think there's any other wallet. Like the only wallet that pops into my mind is Aqua Wallet, right? From Gen 3, but mine is the eCash. I don't think they have eCash. You have Lightning, Liquid, and Bitcoin on-chain. But you guys are probably one of, if not the only guys that offer all those seamless things in one place.
Yeah, I'm trying to make it easy for people.
Yeah. So I guess with developing all of that, making it super easy for the end user, it must have been quite a challenging path to build out all of this. What was kind of your biggest challenge with getting CoinOS to where it is today?
Yeah, there's been challenges over the years. I've just taken the slow and steady approach, though.
Just like Bitcoin.
CoinOS has always been like a passion project for me, right? So it's something I tinkered with for fun on the side and have just been adding to it and slowly growing it to the point where it is today. So just whenever I have spare time, I'll get on there and tweak things, refine things, change the UI, add features. And I enjoy it. It keeps my skills sharp, and it allowed me to learn, how to do web development and uh, manage a database, and I have to manage a server and do the DevOps. Yeah, it's challenging, but it's also enjoyable
Fun.
for me. It's like figuring out a puzzle or something. Like, how do I get this thing to get working and stay working?
A multi-layer puzzle, if I may say so. But it's fascinating that you essentially, Adam, you've built out everything yourself over so many years, right? Like usually these wallet providers, there's like a whole devs team and group of engineers, and you've kind of like slowly, like as you said, you puzzled this thing together, which is fascinating because I don't know of any other wallet provider where it was done by one man and over so many years. So kudos to you.
Thanks. Yeah, it's enjoyable. It's like I like to go and read, uh, the Delving Bitcoin forums and the IRC logs, and check out the GitHub issues for other projects, and just follow along on Bitcoin development in general. And there's so many smart people working on so many cool projects that it's just inspiring, right? So yeah, like getting to learn about the Lightning Network and getting to learn how Liquid works and eCash. This is stuff that I would probably just be reading about and listening to podcasts and things about, but being able to like get my hands dirty with it a little bit and actually try to build something with it just takes it to the next level, where you get to tinker with stuff and play with it, and that helps you understand how it works.
Of course, and building the revolution is better than just witnessing it, like leaving your, so to say, fingerprints on what's being built here. So I want to touch upon, Adam, which I mentioned in the introduction, you're kind of your believer of adoption of sound money. What do you think is holding us back from mass adoption when it comes to Bitcoin today?
I think it's just awareness and education and dispelling the FUD, trying to change people's attitudes towards Bitcoin, make them realize that fiat isn't as safe and secure as they've been raised to believe it is. And just getting people to dip their toes in and try it is the biggest challenge. And then improving that user experience for people so they don't have to worry so much about what if I lose my keys or what if I get hacked. And I think there's just so much information these days that people get overwhelmed, and there's so many different wallets to try or exchanges and platforms to look at, and there's so much misinformation that people they need someone to kind of handhold for them a little bit and get them into it. So that's what I tried to do with my meetups. I'm still hosting a weekly Bitcoin and coffee meetup where newbies can come and ask me or other people there whatever questions they have, and just kind of get a gentle introduction to cold storage or whatever's going on in the news. We try to give the Bitcoiner side of it. And also, a lot of people get caught up in all the altcoins and shitcoins and all the, what if there's Bitcoin 2.0, or, I missed the boat on Bitcoin, what's the next one? And just trying to help people through that confusion.
Imagine this, the market's crashing, exchanges are freezing withdrawals, but you're cool as a cucumber because you're unruggable. With my Become Unruggable mentoring service, you'll get one-on-one support with me to safely move your Bitcoin into self-custody. I'll guide you step by step at your own pace, as well as making sure you have a rock-solid recovery plan in place. Take control, stay sovereign. Get in touch via the link in the show notes below, and let's make you unruggable. And now, let's get back to the episode. When you started your journey, like in 2011, there was not much written about Bitcoin out there. And now, so to say, just over a decade, I totally agree with you, Adam. There's a surplus of information everywhere you look, from YouTube to even the podcast that we're recording now. There's so many Bitcoin podcasts. There's so much of everything. And as a new person come into the space, you must be definitely overwhelmed, where it's kind of a different problem where a decade ago, you didn't have anything to explore. Now there's too much to explore, and a lot of the times a lot of the information is just noise. It's very little signal, so it's hard to find the actual things that you need and will help you move forward in the right direction. I wanted to touch upon meetups, essentially something that you've been very passionate about and doing on a regular basis for many years now. I think that's something super important that we should see more people doing in the space. A lot of times people that jump into Bitcoin, they just stick to their screen and their X, or now, which is more predominantly Nostr. But like going out there physically, interacting with people, having chats and answering people's questions is much more engaging and much more beneficial than trying to get your answers, may that be ChatGPT or the social medias that we use. I'm also like a big proponent of it. Like people that say, well, I don't have Bitcoin meetups happening in my area. I always tell them, well, be that catalyst for change, just do as you guys do the Bitcoin and coffee. I don't know, and if you love ice cream, do a Sunday ice cream and Bitcoin meetup, and if it's just you and that other person, at least there's someone, and the effects will trickle down. How has the Bitcoin scene changed over the years in Northern Vancouver? And my question is, the first meetup that you had was Mike from CoinCards, that other person that come?
It wasn't Mike, it was a guy named Robert, but Mike was one of the early attendees back in 2013 or something. He started coming as well. Yeah, it just takes consistency. I totally agree. There's going to be small towns where you're the only person that you think is into Bitcoin, but if you just start showing up at a coffee shop and you put some posters up around town and you're just consistently trying to, grow it, then it will happen eventually. And over time, word gets out and people will come and drop by and see what it's all about. And some people come and go, but yeah, if you just, as much as you can, just stick with it and be consistent, and it'll pay off. I've met so many people through these meetups that, come out of the woodwork later. Like, hey, I met you like 8 years ago and you sold me some Bitcoin, or I just met you in a coffee shop and I have some questions, or oftentimes I lost my private keys or something, which is sad. But yeah, you never know how many people you're going to affect just by being out there, putting yourself out there. So I think it's definitely good to do that. And then it does get you out of the echo chamber, right? To find people that might not, go and watch Bitcoin YouTube videos or something on their own accord, but if they see a meetup going on at the next table over, they might go and listen in for a bit or something.
That's true. And also, just to add, like, you never know, maybe at these meetups, you might even find your own co-founder to your own project that, you would have never done before if you wouldn't have done the meetup. So anyone listening to this episode, if you don't have a local meetup, be that change, go ahead, set it up. What's the worst thing that can happen? You're just going to enjoy a coffee solo. But then again, maybe to your surprise, 1, 2, 4, 5 people. And if, as Adam said, if you consistently do it weekly basis, monthly basis, people will slowly show up. I did that back in Cyprus. So when my Bitcoin journey started in 2017, like for a lot of us did, we used to do, back in Cyprus, there was no meetups. And actually Lee, shout out to Lee, the guy who connected us, I met him in Cyprus. It was end of November. We had the first Bitcoin conference and we met there. He was living back in Malta at that time. And he told me, you guys should do a weekly Bitcoin meetup. And I was like, I don't know about that. And literally next morning, before he caught his flight back to Malta, we're sitting having breakfast and he goes, here's the Facebook page, here's the Telegram. It's going to be called Bitcoin Club Cyprus and you're going to lead a weekly meetup. And I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? And I was kind of like pushed into it. But ever since then, up until COVID, we used to have every Wednesday weekly meetups. We would go to different bars, pubs, cafes, and just talk, all things Bitcoin. And we had such a variety of people. I was expecting, just some young, computer nerdy kids coming around, but we had like 50-year-old guys, ladies, women, all ages coming through. And it was like Bitcoin really connects you on a level where you would have never sat down and engaged with those people. And yeah, like I highly advise from my experience as well. As I said, until COVID, it was weekly. Every Wednesday, we used to have 6 p.m. We used to get together, Then COVID hit. Then I became a father, and a lot of things changed. And after COVID, we used to do them monthly because weekly was a little bit just too much. But yeah, it's something that I truly love and truly push everyone that's listening. Go ahead. If there is no meetups, go do your own. Now, on the topic of meetups, and mentioning Mike again from CoinCards, he actually shared with me, which I had no idea, kind of in Vancouver, I believe, specifically in Vancouver, there's so many merchants that actually accept Bitcoin. And I believe CoinOS had a big kind of role in that since you've been doing this merchant adoption or in seeding for a while. How is it essentially, to a certain extent, you can live on a Bitcoin standard in Vancouver if you know where to shop? Is that true?
Yeah, especially with Mike filling the gaps. For anything that doesn't take Bitcoin directly, you can buy a gift card through him to pretty much any like big chain or box store or whatever you need. So yeah, I think we're getting close to 100 merchants here. We might be around 80 physical merchants in Vancouver. And it's a pretty good variety. It's like barber shops, butcher shops, bakeries, restaurants, tanning salons. We just got our first car mechanic.
Nice.
Different convenience stores, all sorts of things. So there's a lot of things you can buy with Bitcoin here, which is nice. And a lot of that is because of our community. We've been able to sort of leverage that, spending power of all these people that have Bitcoin and are interested in Bitcoin and want to support Bitcoin adoption, because we can now go to merchants and say, hey, like we've got hundreds of people in our Telegram group here, and we have events like multiple times a week. So we can bring customers to your location and drive sales for you if you take Bitcoin. And that is sometimes the main kind of thing to get them over the hump of, well, why should I bother looking at taking Bitcoin when no one ever asked me if they could pay with Bitcoin? Is, well, there's this niche community that will start coming around and supporting you if you do. So that's kind of our main sales point or sales pitch when we're trying to onboard new merchants. And then, yeah, it's kind of snowballing. Like the first few are really hard to get because they're like, well, no one else is taking Bitcoin. It's this weird thing. But now it's like, well, we show them the map, like, hey, there's all these other people doing it. And they think, well, there must be a reason. So yeah, it's just going to keep growing, I think. So the bigger you can get your community and get more of like become an economic force that is actually out there spending money and supporting local merchants and getting Bitcoin into the hands of these people that wouldn't probably invest in it otherwise, then they get orange pilled over time because they get some Bitcoin. They see it's pretty easy to use. It's free for them to move it around, to transfer it to other people. And it grows in value over time, which is a big kind of selling point. If they hold it long enough, they're going to do well. And then they start to tell their friends, tell their family. And once they have some Bitcoin that they've been sitting on for a few years and it's appreciated in value and they don't know what to do with it, then they can start to think like, okay, maybe I should buy some more of this, first of all. And then also like, yeah, I've got this money now. I can go and spend it at other merchants, or I could use it to pay my staff. I could pay my suppliers with it if I get them an account, or pay my landlord. And it's going to start to become an actual currency and like a circular economy. So we're just trying to keep pushing on that and driving awareness about that, because they do save fees too. Like everyone taking card payments here pays 3%.
Wow.
And yeah, those payment processors are kind of skimming off the top of every payment in the economy. So it would be nice to get rid of those middlemen and have more of the money go directly to the hands of the business owners. And then they can, spend it in the community and it goes around, and more of that money stays local than getting siphoned off to the big Visa and MasterCards of the world.
In a world where water spills, fires rage, and pets chew everything in sight, only one thing can save your Bitcoin seed phrase: StampSeed. Don't let a coffee accident turn your Bitcoin into Bitcoin gone. With StampSeed, your seed phrase is engraved in metal, safe from elements, toddlers, and your own clumsiness. Use promo code BTCSTORY at stampseed.com for 15% off, because in the end, metal always wins. And now, let's get back to the episode. True. And essentially it doesn't cost the merchant nothing to get set up. It's not like they have a burden of thousands of dollars to set up stuff. It's essentially opening an account on CoinOS and they're ready to accept. So yeah, I guess it's only going to get, as you said, the snowball effect is only going to carry on, because in the beginning it's always intimidating when you're like, oh, there's nobody actually accepting Bitcoin. Why should I be that first one? But now, as you said, showing them a BTC map and saying, look how many other merchants are doing it, that is kind of an easier sell. But I love the fact that, kind of CoinOS is really promoting the use of Bitcoin, which I think over the years, this hodl ideology of just hold on forever. And then, of course, Michael Saylor prompting the never sell your Bitcoin, just hold it. I think that kind of goes against of what Bitcoin's here for, right? It's the second line on the white paper. It's peer-to-peer, digital cash. It's meant to be transacted with other peers in your community and generally in the global network. So I love the fact that you're pushing it on that way. And I hope more and more people start using their Bitcoin, because yeah, as a savings, it's a fantastic tool. But at the same time, it's even more fantastic as a spending tool, because you can transact it to anywhere in the world at any point in time, much faster than wire transfers. You don't have to wait 3 business days. And yeah, essentially, like, it doesn't matter, literally wherever you live in the world, you can't be sanctioned off the Bitcoin network. Like, you can transact with anyone, nobody can pause it. So I think a lot of people are missing that part of actually spending their Bitcoin. But I think with time, they will come to realization. And as there's more opportunities to spend that Bitcoin, people will just be more inclined to do so.
Yeah, I remember back in the day in Cyprus, that was like a big deal when you had that banking crisis and the haircut.
Yeah, 2013.
I remember the Zhao Tonged Cyprus anthem. Did you ever hear that one? It was like a take on the Swedish House Mafia song. It's like
okay.
I'll send you the link. It's like a remix of a song, and it's got all this footage of that Cyprus crisis in the background.
But yeah, it's crazy how some bureaucrats can just go in and wipe out your account with you having no say. I mean, it was over a decade ago. I wasn't there on the ground. I was doing my studies in London back then, but my family was there, my friends were there, and it was literally just Friday. The banks closed. The haircut happened over the weekend. Monday, basically, everybody's just in utter shock. Anything over 100,000 just wiped, like gone. Rugged by the bureaucrats in Brussels, like pretty crazy. So yeah, I guess that was my personal kind of, I want to say the orange pill moment, but it was the moment when I was like, holy shit, like you can definitely not trust the legacy financial system. Like you can just lose it all in a night without any say. But yeah, it's crazy that after all those years, still most people trust their banks. They keep all their money there. They're kind of putting all their money in savings, getting those few percent annually interest on it. But who's to say that doesn't happen again in the future?
Yeah. And inflation is the more insidious, slow burn, right? That people, they know it's happening, but I think they
try to ignore it.
They ignore it, yeah, or they think it's inevitable and there's nothing to be done about it. So, but yeah, it's terrible. So we just need to get more and more people onto the Bitcoin standard as soon as possible. And yeah, like you were saying, going out and spending it is going to help with that. Like that's going to create new Bitcoiners, which is eventually going to drive the price of Bitcoin up. So it's not even an altruistic thing that you're doing by spending your Bitcoin. You're probably going to be buying coffees and food with some money, right? Like even if you've invested in Bitcoin, you're going to be spending fiat. So why not just take a little bit extra of the fiat you have and buy more Bitcoin so that you can then go and spend it? Yeah, or spend and replace if you can. But ideally, you start to earn in Bitcoin, right? So find a job where your salary is paid in Bitcoin, so you don't have to convert to Bitcoin and pay those exchange fees and stuff, and then have to pay a spread to reload and buy more Bitcoin. If you're earning in Bitcoin, then it really makes sense to spend in Bitcoin too, because you have to live, right? You have to go and buy food and groceries, and yeah,
100%.
Just do all that with Bitcoin instead of fiat.
And lately there's been a lot of people on X saying like I'd love to work for a Bitcoin company. You know, how do I get a Bitcoin job? And I love replying to all these people saying, you know, like, don't be looking for a Bitcoin job. Just start offering your service or product for Bitcoin. Like, so many people want to do that, like get like, I don't know, work for the block streams of the world, but like there's only limited capacity on how many people they're hiring and what vacancies are open. But anybody can spin up an e-commerce store, put up their products or services, may that be arts, may that be business, may that be design, consulting, anything, and just sell your service for Bitcoin. I think that's kind of the best way of stacking sats. Plus their KYC sats, right? You're not going to an exchange, doing a photo with your driver's license and everything. And you're kind of, you know, incentivizing people to spend their Bitcoin for a certain good and service. Actually, people would be surprised how Bitcoiners love supporting other Bitcoiners. So if I'm looking to, I don't know, for example, the barber store, right? Like if there's a barbershop in town that offers Bitcoin, I'm going to go specifically to that barbershop, even if it's like a little bit further of a drive, just to go and support the guys that accept Bitcoin. So it's kind of, as Peter McCormack termed it, the cheat code, right? If you as a business offer Bitcoin, it definitely helps bring in new clientele and more importantly, loyal clientele, which will be coming back to you, which I think as a business, that's even more important than acquiring clients, because it's all about retaining clients and having them come back and building a relationship with them.
Yeah, totally. And we're starting to see that in Vancouver. We've got our local haunts that all the Bitcoiners go to and congregate at and support. So it's going well for those business owners.
Amazing. So another point regarding talking about the bigger picture of the Bitcoin network and scalability specifically, if we kind of rewind back, let's say some 6 months ago, people, like, there was a lot of discussion about, like, once again, how do we scale Bitcoin? And, you know, Bitcoin's not scaling. And then just a matter of a couple of 3-4 weeks ago, the mempool just like cleared out after how many years, and like fees are like super low. I don't know. I didn't check the fees today, but until like a few days ago, still like you could get through your transactions for like 2-3 sats per VByte, which was kind of, no one would be thinking that halfway, or not even halfway, like during the early bull market, like that you could be having like, you know, such low fees to transact on chain. What's your take on that? Do you think the scalability issues will come back in or not, or are kind of layer twos, Liquid and Lightning, are kind of offsetting all that on-chain transaction volume?
Yeah, it's really interesting that they seem to be offsetting it in this like I don't know, stable way where the fees the blocks are pretty much full, but not very full, or there's not like a huge backlog. And yeah, it's been like this for a while now. So I don't know if it's going to continue or what, but definitely like there's a lot of people who aren't using Bitcoin yet in the world. And we have a lot of scaling to do. If we did start seeing like total fiat collapse because of hyperinflation or something, and everyone's, you know, rushing for the exits and trying to get onto Bitcoin, and it does fulfill that, you know, vision of becoming the world currency, yeah, there's going to be a lot more traffic. And will that happen more on chain or more on the other layers? I think, yeah, it'll just be an organic process where people are going to find the cheapest way to use their money, right? So I think these other layers are going to probably absorb most of that, and most things will be done on Lightning or new layer twos that are coming, or in custodial solutions like CoinOS, right? Like when you send between CoinOS users, it's not even on Lightning. It's just like a record in my database that I'm moving funds from this account to this account. You know, that can scale infinitely because it's just like the fiat system we have now. Different banks maintain their own ledgers, and you know, you can have an SQL database that does millions of transactions a second. So yeah, we might see more custodians popping up, bigger custodians, more well-regulated, well-managed custodians than just some random guy like me doing it. But there may also be better, trustless, fully decentralized options coming as well. So it'll be a mixed bag, but the market will figure it out what that balance is between security and privacy and scalability, like low fees. There will be some equilibrium points that people are going to find that work best for them for their use cases, and we'll see how it goes. Yeah, we definitely couldn't scale Bitcoin just fully on chain without any layer twos or custodians or anything, but luckily we don't have to do that. So I think it's going to work out in the long run.
That's true. That's true. And on the topic of development, scaling, and innovations in particularly, kind of to me personally, the two exciting things in the last 12 months have definitely been Nostr. So I definitely want to touch upon a little bit on Nostr, and then something that kind of intertwines with Nostr and as another layer too, which is eCash, which you guys have been developing a lot of stuff on. And I saw Nostr kind of CoinOS mentioned several times. How has kind of not like in your eyes, how is Nostr developing and potentially changing the landscape of data ownership? And also going to that question, the easing of getting people into Bitcoin to use Bitcoin by setting up a Nostr account and kind of being the usual, kind of experience of using a social media network, but instead of getting worthless likes, you're getting actual zaps and sats for the value that you're giving out to the people.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. It's like a renaissance that we've been looking forward to for a while, and it's actually happening now. So yeah, like the value for value economy stuff, like you were saying, just spin up your own shop and start selling whatever you want to sell, or producing content or offering services, and just having it a super frictionless way to start receiving payments, where the user experience is really good. It's just built into this app that you download, and it's part of the social media that you're going to be using. It's awesome, and it's developing really quickly. A couple of years ago, it was pretty rough around the edges, and the clients were buggy or shitty. It was still
things were breaking constantly,
really
jumping from client to client.
Yeah, it's still like, okay, I'll try this other client because this one's still, it's lacking a little bit, but they are getting a lot more polished, and it's just going to get better and better. And yeah, it's like truly decentralized. You are in control of your own algorithm. You're in control of your own data and your own money, and it's awesome. It's like allowing people to be more digitally sovereign, right? So I think it goes hand in hand with Bitcoin as a communications platform and an identity platform, being able to generate your own private key and then have that authenticate you to all these different apps and services. It's a great model, and I'm just excited to see what else gets developed around that. Yeah, I'm planning to add more like Nostr integration into CoinOS too. So you'll be able to direct message people right within CoinOS and make posts and follow other people and stuff like that. So I'm going to become more of a social wallet. That's like on my to-do list for the next little while.
Awesome. Yeah. And, another thing I really love about Nostr is about, like you said, like you want to inbuild this feature into your wallet, but anyone looking, to do bring their own idea to Nostr, you don't have to it's not a walled garden. You need to spin up your own kind of platform and then get people to sign up and join and everything. You're kind of just plugging into this ever growing community of people. And there's, like mostly people relate Nostr to like a decentralized X, but like there's so many other things that are spinning up, such as like from StampSeed, you can find so many different use cases on Nostr and Zapstream, streaming your actual content instead of YouTube streams or X streams or whatever other streams you're using, and actually getting people to Zap interact, or podcasting, reinventing podcasting 2.0 apps. Anyone listening to this actual podcast, if you're not using it on Fountain, then go and make yourself a favor, download the Fountain app, and you can actually listen to our conversation right now with Adam and be generating free sats by just listening. And then you can go ahead and boost those sats to support podcasts that you like. So that value for value aspect to me is so magical, where actual content creators are getting remuneration in real time for the content that they're doing, not through middle parties or like some platforms you need to have an X amount of followers or engagement to apply for monetization. And by the time you get there and the monetization you make, it's like peanuts compared to what you can actually be making in this value for value ecosystem that we have available right now. And you can do it with 10 followers, right? You don't need different limitations and benchmarks to do so. I'm just fascinated that more content creators are not jumping up on Nostr. For the last few months, we are seeing more and more of them come, but I think we're still a long, long way away from like the general people jumping on a Nostr. But at least Nostr to me, and I don't know if it's the same for you, Adam, but like it's an easier way to get people into Bitcoin because not everybody wants to change the money. Most people don't even know how money even works. And then we come in with, you know, our ideology of like, we will fix the money's broken. And they're like, whoa, like money's just fine. It's in my pocket. I don't need no fixing. But then like with the Nostr, like everybody uses social media, and especially the Gen Zs, they're like glued to social media. So I think getting them onto Nostr and then they just slowly realize, oh wow, Bitcoin is truly magical. Like I can own my own money and my own data. I'm super excited. And Nostr, thanks to shout out to Fiat Jeff for creating this beautiful protocol. It's not even like 4 years old. Like it's so fresh. I tell people being in Nostr today is like being in Bitcoin in 2012, 13. Like you are so early. Like things are only yet coming out through the surface, and there's so much yet to get built. And as a builder, anybody thinking, what can I build? My God, there's so many things you can build on Nostr that this is the time to get involved.
Yeah, sky's the limit.
Sky's the limit.
And eCash is cool too. Like,
yeah,
it's a way to kind of have these coupons or vouchers for Bitcoin. So people who are running custodial services like myself, it makes it more interoperable. So you could easily go from one custodian to the other, and they speak a language that allows you to use Lightning sort of as the backbone to transfer between mints or custodians. And you also gain some privacy from the custodian, because normally you'd register a username and password with me and you'd log in. And if you're not using a VPN or Tor, then I can log your IP address. And I have some records that I can kind of track you a little bit. Well, I don't care. I do have your username, your pseudonym, and I can see all your payment history and stuff. With eCash, I don't get all that, right? Like you can go and move your eCash tokens around. They're backed by me. I'm the custodian still, but I don't know who's using those. It's just anonymous pub keys to me. And only at the time where someone brings one of those tokens back and wants to redeem it for a Lightning payment does it ever really come back and interact with my server. Well, no, that's not true. Like my server does have to sign off on all the transfers, but there's less metadata involved in that. So it's more private, and there's all this programmability with eCash too. Like you can lock your tokens to certain keys and do time locks and do all this like smart contracting stuff that I haven't even really scratched the surface of yet. But Cal is working on some pretty cool stuff. I kind of just keep tabs on the Cashew Telegram channels and stuff, and there's a lot of cool stuff coming down the pipes there. So, and then, yeah, it interoperates really well with Nostr, because it's just, you know, an eCash token is just a blob of text or bytes. So when you're passing those around, like you could say, well, you could put it into an email or a text message or any way you want to get that text to the person. Nostr is like just a great decentralized protocol for making that easier. So you can just DM someone some eCash tokens, and you know, you get all the encryption and global relay network that Nostr offers. It's kind of like a better email. It's gonna eventually replace email, I think, as the global like communication network or protocol, because it has the sort of encryption built in that you could use PGP or something with email, but it's not like a default. With Nostr, it's going to be more of a out of the box kind of thing for most people. And yeah, you'll be able to pass your money around as easily as you'll pass messages or notes. So eCash is kind of cool for that.
No, for sure. And fixating on the topic of privacy, which is something that Bitcoiners have been kind of talking for a while, wanting to see more privacy on Bitcoin. And maybe we don't have that much privacy on-chain on the main layer. But then again, that's the whole point of Bitcoin, by being an open ledger that anybody can verify anything. You know, there's no kind of hiding, doing transactions under the table. But now with eCash, and actually the revival of eCash, which I think most people that are learning about eCash today, a lot of them don't know that eCash, the Chaumian eCash was invented a long time ago, but that was way pre-Bitcoin, and it was essentially redeemable for gold. And yeah, that was basically that story didn't end too well when David launched it, but now kind of the revival and Kale, what he's doing with launching Cashew, and now there's so many different eCash essentially tokens out there that the privacy aspect is ideal. Like by you, as you said, Adam, redeeming, getting your tokens, and you can transact with anyone, send them to anyone. Nobody can track it. Like it's the optimal way if you want to be using Bitcoin in a private way, unless you want to do Monero or what else. But I'm really excited to see everything that's going to unravel. Same as like with Nostr, eCash has only been around now, like revived for a couple of years, and there's already so much stuff getting built. And especially with Nostr, as you said, I totally agree. It fits in like a glove, hand in hand with what's happening there. So yeah, I'm just really excited with everything that's happening, and who knows what's next on the horizon on those protocols.
Yep. Exciting
And
times.
Adam, yeah, it is. So I think it's a nice way to kind of round it off on a positive note and inspirational, because sometimes people look at the price and are questioning what's happening out there. But guys, don't worry. One Bitcoin is still one Bitcoin last time I checked. So fiat prices don't really matter. It's about staying optimistic, holding for it the long term, spending wisely on things that you really need. But to the listeners who are only yet just starting their own Bitcoin journeys, I kind of round this question to all my guests. Adam, what is one piece of advice you would give to someone starting their Bitcoin journey today?
Get involved with the community. Like, don't just watch podcast or watch videos and listen to podcasts. Like you're saying, get out there, meet other Bitcoiners, go to a conference or two if you can, or if you can't, then start a local meetup in your town and see who shows up, and get on Nostr and come and hang out online, join the community online. So yeah, just get out there, interact, tell everyone you know to get onto Bitcoin, teach your friends and family, and hold for the long run. Yeah.
Nice. The TLDR advice is get involved. Don't just be a lurker out there listening and watching, but actually go out and experience it and join the community, which I think this is all about. Us people, we are the ones that make Bitcoin what it is. Bitcoin, at the end of the day, it's just math in a computer, right? But we are the ones that are shaping this brave new world that we're building. Adam, thanks so much for taking the time on. It's been a pleasure meeting you and learning more about CoinOS. I had no idea that the history of CoinOS is so long. I thought it was another wallet that popped up over the last year or two. So thank you so much for sharing your story and how CoinOS came around. I wish you all the best of luck with all the developments happening. I'll definitely be trying out CoinOS and looking for the future upgrade of making it more social with integrations with Nostr. I'm looking forward to that, since I'm trying to be spending more time on Nostr than X nowadays. But if we can send, where's the best place to send our listeners to follow you and follow all the work that's happening on CoinOS?
Yeah, I deleted my X, so you'll have to follow me on Nostr. CoinOS.io is the website, so you'll find me there. If you want to email me, I'm also on Telegram. That's the other main kind of platform I use. So we have a CoinOS channel or group on Telegram. And yeah, look forward to it. Thanks for having me on, Gigi. It was a pleasure meeting you and getting to chat with another like-minded Bitcoiner for a while. So
for sure,
stay in touch, and yeah, see you on the interwebs.
Thank you. Until next time, Adam, I'm sure we'll have you back in the future, because the Bitcoin journeys, this is not the end. It's only the beginning, and the journey is a long one. So I look forward to having you back in the future. And until then, all the best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in. If this episode resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with others who might benefit too. Your support keeps us going, and we appreciate it. See you in the next one.